So, who's an angel investor? Well, the answer is it's kind of anybody who's got the wherewithal to write a check. We have to be accredited investors, at least to participate in CTAN. And if you've read this, what that means, it's not that big a hurdle. It's like $1 million of assets other than your house and $200,000 in income, and that's an SEC rule. Backgrounds are all over the place. You'll find lawyers, doctors, tech people, finance guys, you name it, who are part of our membership. You'll find angels that go at what they're doing very professionally, as I like to think I do, in terms of the way they're thinking about their portfolio, the way they're thinking about their investing. You'll find some for whom it's kind of a hobby. And then you'll find some members within CTAN who really represent a family fund, which is kind of true of me too, which is a relatively bigger pool of money that maybe writes bigger checks. But again, it's all over the map. It's hard to generalize. The last bullet's the important one, which is that most of the people who do this as angels don't do it just for the investment value. Now, to me, the investment value is at the top of the list of things that are important, but we all do it because we actually enjoy spending time with the companies we invest in, with the companies that we're looking at. I do 2 or 3 coffee meetings a week with entrepreneurs that just kind of want to, how do I get started? So it's something we all spend actually a substantial amount of time doing, is just talking to entrepreneurs before they get funded, joining a board after they get funded, and just being there to provide a lot of mentoring. Why do we invest? Well, for some of us, it's a significant piece of their portfolio, and they take it seriously, and they actually expect to make a good return. Okay, it's true for me. For some of us, it's diversification, because we're hoping that our startup investments would do well even when the market is tanking. It's not a very good assumption, but it's a hope. Again, we like to be involved in the startup ecosystem and just being involved with entrepreneurs and with young companies. For a lot of us, it really is a give back. You'll find within the CTAN membership a lot of people who are past entrepreneurs with successful exits, and they want to help people do what they did. And for most of us, if we're not having fun doing it, we won't do it for very long. It's like anything in life, even starting a startup. If you're not having fun along the way, the destination doesn't mean a lot. So keep that in mind. This is a high risk. At an individual investment level, this is about very high risk. Half the deals I invest in will fail. Maybe more than half. A couple of them will return their capital, or maybe 2 or 3 times their capital, because they kind of limp their way to an exit. And most of the net return I make will be on literally a small handful of companies that I've invested in that will give me a 10x or 20x return. So most of us try to put an entire portfolio of investments together. Among the CTAN memberships, the median check is $25,000. That's almost also the minimum. It just turns out that that's the size that most of our investors do. But the checks range up to $200,000. And again, if you've got 10 deals and half of them fail and a couple of them kind of just return their capital or a little better, then what's going to happen is from 85% of your portfolio, you'll break even. And all the net positive return you get will be from the 1 or 2 companies that are the ones that really do well. And partly what that means is that to be successful, every company I invest in has got to have the possibility of providing a 10x return. Because if everyone can't do 10x, then as a group, they can't return 2x. Because I need one. Of every 10 deals I do, if one of them doesn't return 10x, I don't get 2x. And given the time that the money's involved in the illiquidity and all those kinds of risk factors, it's not a very good return if you don't at least double your money by investing in a portfolio of companies over literally 6, 7, 8 years. So keep that in mind as you talk to investors, that the kind of business that's really just going to give the investor a 10 or 15% return if it's successful doesn't work. It breaks the model. The last thing I want to talk about a little bit is elements of great pitch. So if we invite you to a special interest group meeting, you're going to get 6 to 8 minutes. It kind of depends we're still dialing that in, and it kind of depends on how many companies we invite to those meetings. But in 6 to 8 minutes, your job is to cover all of this. To talk about the problem, what your solution is, present your business model, talk about the competition, talk about the differentiation, introduce the team, give us a sense of how far you've come, give us a sense of your traction, give us a sense of what your financials can look like over the next several years, talk a little bit about the deal, but not much, and then wrap up. Okay. And the reality is, that's not possible. That can't be done in a 6 to 8 minute pitch. Okay, and I'll come back to that. The most important thing to remember is that when you're pitching to an investor, you're not there to sell your product. You're there to sell your company, or to sell an opportunity for them to buy a piece of your company. So I may invest in your company even though you are offering a product I would never buy. You may have a product that is targeted towards gamers, and I'm not a gamer, but I really like the way you're thinking about the business, and I really like the edge you've got and the opportunity you've got. And so I may invest, though I will never play your game. And that doesn't matter, because when I'm looking at your deal, it's important that the product makes sense and that it meets a real need and it's innovative and hopefully disruptive. But at the end of the day, I'm deciding whether I want to invest in your company. I'm not deciding whether I want to buy your product. So you need to convey to me that you know how to make money from your product, because there's an awful lot of companies out there that I would never invest in, even some very famous ones with multi-billion-dollar valuations, that are not making money and probably will never make money. And I'm just kind of counting the days until the slaughter of the unicorns comes. But trust me, it's coming. It's inescapable. I want to know how you're going to make money from your innovative product. I want to know how big the opportunity is. I want to know a little bit about the revenue ramp looks like. And I know that's the least predictable thing about anything in your business, but by hearing you talk about how it could play out, it gives me a sense of how you're thinking about it, and whether you understand what the hurdles are going to be and what the gating factors are going to be. And I want to know what the exit might be. And again, you got a 6 minute pitch, 8 minute pitch at most. So, what do? And the answer is you forget all of that and tell your story. Tell the story that makes sense for your deal. Spend time where it makes sense on your deal. If when people with lots of information would say, you know, look, I get all that, it's really intuitive, I understand the whole story except for this piece, well, you better spend some more time on that piece. If your Achilles heel is competition, then you better convey that you know who the competition is and why you're going to beat it. If the Achilles heel or the weak spot in your story is you know, how you're going to take it to market, then you better be spending a disproportionate amount of time on how to take it to market. But be authentic, be passionate, tell us what you've done, tell us what you're going to do, not what you hope might happen to you. This is not a passive game, it's an active game. Don't read from a script, it doesn't work, period. And when someone gets up to give a 6 minute pitch, and they get to slide 11, and they've got 6 more slides they didn't get to, they have just failed the first IQ test. Do not be that entrepreneur. Never, never, never give a pitch without knowing that you can deliver it in the time that's provided, because it is the most unprofessional and negatively impression-creating thing you can do, is to be clueless as to how long it takes for you to give a pitch. And for a 6 minute pitch, you cannot give a 6 minute pitch without practicing it, any more than I can give a 30-minute slide presentation without practicing it, which I didn't practice, which is why I'm running long. But the last thing I'll leave you with, which I think is the last slide, is the thing to keep in mind is that you're pitching your company, not your product, but the other thing to keep in mind is no one is going to write a check from seeing your 6 minute pitch. All you need to do in your 6 minute pitch is to get to the next conversation. You need to put up a defense against the obvious, I don't believe it, issues, and you have to show enough sparkle and interest and opportunity that they want to hear more. And Your only mission in the 6-minute pitch is to get to the next conversation. And the next conversation is still going to be all about getting to the conversation after that. Because until you're going to sit down and spend literally a couple hours with your investors, you're not talking at a level where they're going to write a check anyway. So you don't expect to get a check handed to you after giving a 6-minute pitch. It's not going to happen. Your job is just to get to the next conversation.